For you, Ian Hunter, like if I asked you, what do you think the difference between animals and humans are? Just that question. What would you say to that? What's your response?
I think maybe what's similar.
Okay, yeah. Okay, turn it around. So, what is similar between them, and what are your thoughts, especially in the context of what we're looking at? Human beings basically having these kind of urges and like having kind of in our DNA we have a kind of creative energy, a kind of a restlessness to basically just do stuff like tinker and.
I've got it. I think the thing, and it's, it might sound like it's a slight diversion, but it's very pertinent to us being here in Cylinders Farm in the sunshine, end of August, quiet time. You've done some amazing work here, Charlie. And we have some chickens here. And we have a rooster, we have 2 chickens, they're English Moran. We've had them for quite a number of years. And I'm not avoiding the question, I'm going to come back to the question and very direct. And every morning, the chickens, they live in the hen house. It used to be where Schwitter's had his painting studio, or where he did one of his paintings. And when the chickens come out in the morning, I always greet them. I say, how are you guys? How are you chickens? And the rooster will shake his head like that because, he knows I'm talking to him. But I think he gets brain overload, And I say, well, are you guys okay today? How are you feeling? And just and I suddenly realize what's going on there is, it is a kind of a communication. It's a communication of pleasure. So that's really the theme. The second part, I'm getting to answer your question. The second part was just before your friend Carolina and her friend came. We have one of the chickens is sitting on some eggs, or clucking as we call it, or just ready, and she's obviously sitting in the box for hours and hours and hours. And so what I do is I very carefully lift her out and take her to make sure she gets some water and food. And but today I took her out because the rooster and the other hen were dust bathing under the cypress tree. And I thought she will love to have a dust bath. And I put her into the dust bath, and immediately she just rolled on her back and started shaking with pleasure. So the communication, the one thing that I think, human beings and animals share many things or whatever. Maybe it's not the difference. I look for the commonalities, and that's what your philosopher friend was saying. Because on the basis of that is ethics. And it was my knowledge that the chicken has pleasure and has urges, and whether you call it creativity or not, but the seeking of pleasure, the seeking of creativity. Through creativity is a sense of a pleasure of being in the world, but a sense of an enhanced being. And I think that's what we share with animals. They too have an enhanced sense of being. When a chicken has a dust bath, and you just know, you can just tell from the body, they're just experiencing pleasure. The way we experience pleasure when you see Casper, having not seen Casper for 3 days. There's no way you can write poetry, you can take a film, but there's no way you can actually, that pleasure is just so. Well, that's animals have that too. So I'd use that kind of slightly elliptical way of sort of saying that's what it is. And so creativity, the sense of being, creativity, whether you make steam bent artworks of immense variety and sophistication, it certainly gives me and here's the thing. When I walk in here, I experience a sense of pleasure, deep sense of pleasure. When I look at your work, a deep sense of pleasure, because I see in your work, in your life with Alison and Casper, searching for that which has integrity. Integrity is a different kind of thing, but integrity is a sense of beingness. And that's what, and your philosopher friend was also certainly, she was talking about, when she says, when I talk to students and I talk about ethics, she said, I try to not to position the human as the privileged, so there's a nice critique there. So when I walk in to see your immense sense of pleasure, when I look at your sculpture in the tree, watching you work on it, slowly, carefully, exploring. I mean, it's a metaphor for your life. That's a metaphor for all artists, and it's certainly a metaphor for Schwitter's. But to walk into this gallery and see this gallery transformed with the output of your work over maybe 5, 10 years, there's a consistency here. There's a searching after form, a searching after pleasurable forms, a searching after, a relationship with the materials, and it's a good journey. Charlie, congratulations.
Okay, that's a very kind way of answering that question. Thank you very much. So, another question.
Go on.
Okay, is actually you can answer back to the difference between apes and animals. Do you think that this is kind of my second question as well? But do you think humans are more because we are, ourselves? So do you think we are more important than animals? Like, do we have the right to just dominate the world, especially and all the other animals in the way that we do? Like, should we ask permission? Are we rude? What do you think?
Well, in asking the question, you answer the question because I don't think there's an element of doubt in you asking the question. I think you're looking for different responses. And I mean, one of the things I do here is when I go around the farm occasionally. I mean, we have, the history of Schwitter's and our frustrations of trying to get the place and go on. And every now and again, I just it's not a big deal, but occasionally I will kiss one of the stones.
Kiss one.
I would just on the merge farm.
Okay, yeah.
Or on the wall here. It's not. I mean, it's not a Prince Charles thing, hugging trees, but I do occasionally. I will touch a stone, or I would just look over my shoulder, make sure there's nobody here, and I'll just give it a little kiss and say thank you. So in a sense, that's for the being of the stone and the being of the building and the pleasure it gives us to have that relationship. So is there a difference between a human being and an ape or an insect? Of course there are. As we call that genetics or whatever. Hierarchies, human beings are very good at hierarchies. But I think, of course human beings are very important. Of course they dominate. I mean, why would we pretend we're anything else? But in your life, I mean, and in what you can do, I mean, you can take time out just to acknowledge the fact that you're equal, I mean, there's, you speak to a nuclear physicist or to, who's the other people that work with the absolute basic forms of life, and they say, we're all just oscillating protons. That's all. That's all we are. We just oscillate at different frequencies. This table oscillates, and so we're all. I mean, you can go down that route. So, so who's got the fastest Ferrari? Well, you never know.
Yeah, it's but I mean, what is the so with your life and with the things that you've done?
Yeah.
So. You've been an artist and a curator, you've run an arts trust, you've probably done loads of other things I don't know about, what is the sort of one of the things I'm really interested in is the kind of energy and the reason why human beings have to do all this stuff all the time. We're always tinkering and changing and customizing and stuff. I think it's in our nature. Like when Casper was here a couple of days ago, he found some scissors in the kitchen. I was like, "Oh, Casper, what are you doing?"
No, it's perfect.
I was so worried. He went round. He trimmed all the nettles on the path, and he wanted it to be nice and neat. So obviously, he didn't sting himself. And one of the girls stung themselves. He thought, right, I'm going to get some scissors and do it. And that was his kind of thing. And I would say, if I have any hypothesis on this sort of strain of work, I would say that we have this kind of, we just literally can't help it. I sometimes wonder, why do I make stuff? I don't need to. And if it was just about making money and feeding yourself, then you do other things. But in your life, like I was wondering if you've got any memories or any comments about what motivates you. You know, and also why your brother.
I mean, trying to keep it really brief. I mean, I was alluding to it as we were meandering through the first question, which was pleasure, in the sense that we adjust the word, and whether it's Casper trimming the nettles or the girl or whatever, in a sense, we adjust circumstances to enhance our experience. So it can be for pleasure. I mean, there's destructive ways too, of course. Some people, many human beings get pleasure out of destructiveness and evil. So let's not get too airy-fairy. So there's a sense of being pleasure. I mean, people do take pleasure out of the most appalling things. Absolutely. But so pleasure isn't necessarily an ethical guideline, but it's the motivation for a lot of what we do. My earliest memory, why am I doing what I'm doing as an artist, is my grandmother and her love of the garden on the farm that we lived in Ireland, and to hear her singing in the garden as she went about weeding and planting, and she'd have lots of garden books. Yes, she had to run a farm, she brought up a family, and as I discovered later on, not so a loveless marriage, but it was an arranged marriage. So, we take our pleasure, we adjust the world around us, hopefully in a good way, to enhance our experience. So, what Charlie Whinney's doing here is, I say, he's driven by a very basic and very laudable impulse, which is to enhance, magnify, increase, accelerate his experience of the world for good things, for your family, for your career, for your art, for your design. Those are all good things. And, we make mistakes. Sometimes we get carried away. But to have doubt and to reflect upon what it is that you do, and is this what I should be doing? And, it's not that you have to do things better. You're at a very high level of sophistication as a practitioner. The doubts that you're having are normal.